This is VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South. Please stand by for this morning's WIA broadcast at 9 a.m. on 1825 kHz in the 160 metre amateur radio band. This is VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South. Please stand by for this morning's WIA broadcast at 9 a.m. on 1825 kHz in the 160 metre amateur radio band.
This national news edition originates from VK1WIA and is rebroadcast throughout Australia and around the world under a common licence published on the WIA website. This WIA national news service is copyright to the Wireless Institute of Australia, and rebroadcast is authorised only under the provisions of that common licence. WIA Director and Company Secretary Peter Clee, VK8ZZ.
From Australia, this is the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
And in WIA National News this week, WIA Director and President Scott Williams, VK3KJ, and his take on the WIA AGM. WIA Director Justin, VK7 Tango Whiskey, visits Albury Library and Museum during the WIA AGM weekend. This museum holds the heritage-listed Uva collection. Of growing concern, a dangerous practice, particularly in the USA. Jason, VK2LAW, looks at this, the growing number of drivers, listeners, paying attention to dashboard displays and consuming video streams. But wait, there's much, much more in this edition of news from the Wireless Institute of Australia, and it's for week commencing Sunday, May 17, 2026, World Telecommunications Day. I'm Editor Graham, AX4BB.
This is the home service of the Wireless Institute of Australia through VK1WIA.
This is WIA Director and President Scott Williams, VK3KJ, and welcome to the WIA broadcast this week. I thought I'd provide everybody with an update on the WIA AGM that was held in Albury, New South Wales on Saturday the 2nd of May at 1:30pm. The AGM was attended by around 65 people in person, with another 25 to 30 people joining us online via Microsoft Teams. The AGM took place in the Commercial Club in Albury, which was part of the VK Summit Conference hosted by the Albury Wodonga Amateur Radio Club. The overall event was a tremendous success, and having the AGM within the facility worked really well. VK Summit had in excess of 200 people attend, and it was a real credit to the Albury Wodonga Amateur Radio Club for running such an outstanding event. At the AGM, Stephen Green, VK2TSG, retired as a director, and we're thrilled to officially welcome Justin Giles Clark, VK7TW, to the board. All other board positions remained unchanged from the previous year. The WIA was saddened to announce that 39 members fell silent keys since the 2025 AGM up until the AGM a few weeks ago. There was 39 seconds of silence observed as we reflected, and on behalf of the WIA, we again extend our deepest condolences to their families, colleagues and friends. The WIA also announced that at the end of 2025, we had 2,910 members, and as of the AGM a few weeks back, this had grown to 2,937 members. The WIA also announced a financial surplus of 18,606 for the year after taking up a $15,000 provision for the development of electronic call book, further investment into the affiliated clubs program, and money set aside for club development. With this recorded surplus, the WIA closed with a net asset position of $942,221. Your WIA has never been in a better financial position in its history. The AGM closed at around 3:45 p.m. with a further 1-hour forum following the AGM to discuss general matters and a range of questions from clubs and members. In summary, it was a terrific few days and was wrapped up with a wonderful dinner of around 150 people on the Saturday night, which included a presentation from Adrian Sapersa, KO8SCA, on his recent expedition to Bouvet Island, 3 Yankee 0 Kilo, and a live cross to NA1SS on the International Space Station with the Wodonga Scouts Group. Sunday was also a busy day in the morning at the VK Summit conference before it was all wrapped up early afternoon and everybody departed and headed home. The feedback was very positive and we all had such a wonderful time. That's it for me for another week, and this has been Scott Williams, WIA President, on behalf of the WIA Board. Best wishes.
VK Summit, Historical Connection. The VK Summit and the WIA AGM was held in Albury a few weeks ago, and I managed to get to the Albury Library and Museum over the weekend, which is well worth a look if you're travelling through there any time. The museum and the Albury Airport have a great celebration of a unique piece of aviation history that I became aware of through a recent LinkedIn contact, Agnes Taub, VK2GWI. Before my trip to Albury, Agnes told me about the London to Melbourne aviation race in 1934. Yes, 1934, when aviation was in its infancy, and shared that the KLM Uber DC-2 made an emergency landing at Albury Airport during a violent thunderstorm in October 1934. And I quote from Agnes telling the story. When the townspeople realised what was happening, something remarkable occurred. Cars rushed to the local racecourse, drivers lined up their vehicles along the track and switched on their headlights, creating a glowing runway in the darkness. Through sheets of rain and flashes of lightning, the Dutch aircraft finally appeared overhead. Slowly, carefully, the pilot guided the plane down towards the improvised runway of car lights. The crowd held its breath. Then, with a bump and a roar of engines, the Uber touched down safely. Cheers erupted in the stormy night. To this day, the story of the Uber and the lights of Albury remain one of the most extraordinary acts of community spirit in aviation history, unquote. And 50 years later, the Dutch airline KLM flew the same route in a DC-2 and held a commemoration by issuing radio amateur certificates if they contacted the cities where the KLM DC-2 Uber aircraft had actually landed. Agnes, as PA3ADR, was living in the Netherlands at the time and managed to get one of those certificates. The museum has an extensive display. The airport hosts the Uber Cafe, and they are restoring a DC-2 aircraft in a big hangar at the airport, which will become a museum commemorating the event. By the way, Agnes was also the president of Veron between 1995 and 1999, which is the Dutch national amateur radio organisation. A huge thanks to Agnes for sharing a significant piece of aviation history with an amateur radio connection. For the WIA National News, I'm Justin, VK7 Tango Whiskey.
From here, there and everywhere, You've tuned to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now with international news, Jason, VK2LAW.
Hello. This year, International Women in Engineering Day takes place on the 23rd of June. It's a celebration of the amazing work of women engineers across the globe. People who have an interest in amateur radio often work in careers related to science, technology, engineering and mathematics, also known as STEM. STEM subjects can be an effective way to introduce amateur radio to new audiences and young people. In the UK, to mark the day, the RSGB is planning to share stories of how amateur radio has helped female engineers in their lives and careers. The theme for International Women in Engineering Day 2026 is Engineering Intelligence and is an opportunity to recognise the women engineers who solve complex challenges and help drive change. The RSGB has put out a call for information, and we look forward to sharing that here on WIA National News after the deadline of May 31. From Russia with love. Back on April 26, a large-scale patriotic festival was held at the training grounds in the Lipetsk region at the Gryazy Sports Airfield in Russia. Actions are stronger than words. At the festival, various venues were organised where performances by members of military patriotic clubs and masterclasses by professionals took place. In total, there were more than 30 sites at the festival, where one of the most visited was the Soldiers' Field Kitchen. In order to popularise amateur radio and radio sports, the Lipetsk Regional Radio Association organised a platform at the festival demonstrating the work of the Romeo Charlie 3 Golf Amateur HF radio station. Young people, as well as their parents, were told and shown in practice what radio sport is, what are its benefits and significance in everyday life, and in the training of future technical specialists, communication specialists, RER and EW specialists, as well as UAV operators. The work of the platform was supported by about 20 activists of the union, including those whose professional activities are related to the theme of the site. The BBC has announced that the Droitwich transmitter on 198 kHz will be permanently closed down during 2026. The Scottish long-wave transmitters at Burghead and Westerglen were also turned off. The Droitwich transmitter was commissioned during September 1934. A date has not yet been formally given, but the BBC is committing to providing 2 months' notice to listeners. The RSGB and the BBC Amateur Radio Group are planning to mark this occasion on the air. More details of how this will be achieved will be available soon. The Earth, along with the solar system, is moving through the galaxy, and along the way it passes through clouds of interstellar dust. Traces of one such cloud have been preserved within the Antarctic ice. Scientists found rare iron atoms there, which are formed only during stellar explosions. Analysis of their distribution in the ice core allowed them to reconstruct the solar system's path over the last 80,000 years. Scientists extract long cylinders, glacial cores from this ice sheet and obtain chronological records of everything that has settled on the surface from the air. What 295 kilograms of ice revealed. The team analysed samples from the European Project for Ice Coring in Antarctica, EPICA, melted 295 kilograms of ice and counted the iron 60 atoms. The concentration of the isotope in the ice core was higher than the background level from cosmic rays, but significantly lower than in fresh Antarctic snow. This suggests that the solar system was passing through a less dense part of the cloud at the time than the one it's currently in. Weird and wonderful, and extremely dangerous. A tech survey from Metadata is the new radio signal. Listeners pay attention to dashboard displays and also consume station YouTube feeds. More than 4 in 5 respondents in the latest tech survey own vehicles with dashboards displaying artist and title information. A majority of those said they pay attention to the dashboard display. The survey from Jacobs Media found that especially true for younger respondents and more with women than men. Tech survey results also showed that radio listeners expect more than just music to be displayed, said Fred Jacobs, president of Jacobs Media, in a recent presentation of the results of the 2026 survey. Metadata in the dashboard is another way that vehicles are becoming visualised. Now there are a number of car manufacturers putting 8K screens like BMW, but the ability to be able to actually message on the dashboard is really important for radio, Jacobs said. The most recent survey keyed in on the messaging wants of the respondents. Emergency weather information, breaking news and traffic alerts rate especially high, according to the survey earlier this year of nearly 31,000 US radio listeners. For WIA National News in Sydney, I'm Jason, VK2LAW.
We are VK1WIA. Now, operational news with VK4FUQ. Felix.
Hello there. Now, contest-wise 2026. UNDX contest 0600 hours Zulu, 2100 hours Zulu, May 16. This is not a United Nations contest, but comes from the Republic of Kazakhstan. The organisers of the competition are Kazakhstan Federation of Radio Sports and Radio Amateur and the Committee of Sports and Physical Culture of the Ministry of Tourism and Sports of the Republic of Kazakhstan. It is a worldwide contest and is being held on the wireless bands of 80, 40, 20, 15 and 10 metres and will utilise CW and SSB. His Majesty King of Spain contest, CW, 1200 hours Zulu, May 16 to 1200 hours Zulu, May 17. Again a worldwide contest, this time CW only on all contest bands 10 to 160 metres. Real-time contest 1600 hours Zulu, 2000 hours Zulu, May 24. Worldwide CW and phone, but with a twist. Hence its name, Real-Time Contest. The Real-Time Contest, RTC, is a global amateur radio event built for exciting, live and fully interactive competition. Everyone is welcome to join the action. To ensure real-time scoring and official results, participants must stay connected to the official RTC server for the entire duration of the contest. This server is at URL hamscore.com. The contest will be in mixed mode format, CW and SSB. Each station may be worked only once per band, regardless of mode, CW or SSB. June 6 and 7 BK Shires Contest. June 2021 VHF UHF Field Day. July 4 and 5 NZRT Memorial Contest. July 11 and 12 IAAU HF Championship. July 18 VK Trans-Tasman Contest. July 25-26 RSGB IOTA Contest. Now let's open the DX window to the world. Special course on YR100RC is active until the 30th of September. To celebrate the centenary of Romania's first amateur radio club. Look for activity on the HF bands using FT8 and SSB. Tom VK2 TBC is active as VK0 TBC from Casey Station, Antarctica, until December. He will operate SSB and FT8. Rob will be active as ZC4RH from the UK sovereign base areas on Cyprus, 23-30, month of May. He expects to operate SSB, CW and FT modes on 40 to 6 metres. QSL via DK6SB, Club Logs OQRS and LOTW. ZD8KX from Ascension Island, AF003 on 25-29 May. QRP using CW, SSB and FT modes on 40 to 10 metres. QSL via LOTW and QRZ.com or direct to ZB2KX. For WIA National News, I'm Felix VK4FUQ.
From here, there and everywhere, you tune to the Wireless Institute of Australia's National News Service. We are VK1WIA. Now, Special Interest Group News with Cole, VK3GTV.
Hello, first up this week in Worldwide Special Interest Group News, it's astronomy and wireless weather. Amateur astronomers help discover thousands of new objects. Over the past decade, more than 200,000 volunteers around the world have been examining images of the sky in search of barely visible objects. The results exceeded expectations. The number of known brown dwarfs in the vicinity of the Sun has now doubled. Scientists have long known that there's an intermediate category of objects between stars and planets. Brown dwarfs are similar in size to Jupiter, but are significantly more massive than it. However, they're not massive enough to trigger nuclear fusion and become fully fledged stars. They emit almost no light in the visible spectrum, making them extremely difficult to detect. Astronomers estimate that for every 3 or 4 stars near the Sun, there is one such object. The results were published in the Astronomical journal under the leadership of astronomer Adam Schneider of the U.S. Naval Observatory. Of the 75 authors of this paper, 61 are volunteers. 2 others started out as volunteers and later chose to pursue careers in astronomy. Over the past 10 years, the project has added more than 3,000 new brown dwarfs to the existing catalogue, effectively doubling the total number of known objects of this type. Worldwide Special Interest Group's Final Frontier. The second Artemis mission took 4 astronauts around the Moon and back, the first crewed deep space flight since 1972. Not everyone gets a chance to put on a spacesuit, but you can still be an important part of NASA's human space exploration story by doing NASA science. Volunteers with NASA's citizen science projects have tested chili pepper plant varieties to grow in space, monitored active regions on the Sun, and analysed data from experiments on how life adapts to the low-gravity, high-radiation environment of space. Participation does not require citizenship in any particular country. You only need a love of science and a desire to help. Join one of the projects and help NASA make space travel safer and healthier. Join the team called Ham Radio Science Citizen Investigation, Ham SCI, and use your ham radio skills to deploy your own personal space weather station. These stations are designed to be relatively low cost and easy to build and deploy by science professionals, educational institutions, and citizen scientists, you. Your observations will be aggregated into a central database to help answer questions about how the ionosphere responds to the Sun and the natural atmosphere. A very easy URL, but if you miss what I'm about to give you, it, along with all points of contact for stories in WIA National News, is best read at wia.org.au, and also shown in the video version of the broadcasts. The URL is hamsci.org/get-involved. Still on space news, ARIS in the future. A couple of events planned include a hookup between the ISS and N.I. Lobachevsky Lyceum and School Number 132, Kazan, Russia, direct via telebridge. The ISS call sign is presently scheduled to be RS0 ISS. The scheduled crew member is Sergei Kud-Shvertkov, and the ARIS mentor is RV3DR, with contact planned for Wednesday the 20th at 1550 UTC. Then a contact with Memorial Complex of Soviet pilot cosmonaut A.G. Nikolaev in Chuvashia, Russia, again direct via telebridge. The ISS call sign is presently scheduled to again be RS0 ISS, also with crew member Sergei, and ARIS mentor is RV3DR. Contact is go for tomorrow, Monday the 18th at 1725 UTC. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, IOTA, Islands on the Air. The RI-1FJL team will be active from Heis Island, IOTA EU 014, Franz Josef Land, for 15 days during September. They'll operate on 160 through to 10 metres using CW, SSB and digital modes. QSL via Club Log OQRS LOTW. Again, that's Heis Island, IOTA EU 014. Team KH-8A will be active from Pago Pago, OC045, American Samoa, from the 29th of October to the 13th of November. Plans are to operate CW and SSB, FT8, MSHV, and RITI on 160 through to 6 metres, with 4 stations operating 24/7. QSL via Club Logs OQRS or via DL4SVA, but full LOTW upload will be after 6 months. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Maritime. DA's key has fallen silent. It's with deep sadness that we record the passing of Denise D.A. Stoops. D.A. was a part of KPH project from the beginning. RadioMarine.org said she learned her trade at US Coast Guard Master Station NMC, adjacent to KPH. At NMC, she earned the coveted gold lightning bolt Radio Man's insignia. There was no such thing as a radio woman in the Coast Guard. She also acquired the salty vocabulary she needed to hold her own in the all-male world of Morse operators. When her hitch in the Coast Guard was up, she applied to be a Morse operator at KPH. She was hired by station manager Ed Brennan in 1979 and became the first female operator at KPH. In 2010, Denise embarked on a new career in the Merchant Marine. She went through all the required safety training and soon began her new career at sea. But sadly, as she was ready to depart on her second or third voyage, she was struck down by a stroke in Singapore. She continued to live independently for many years after that incident, driving and shopping on her own. The maritime fraternity wished Denise fair winds and following seas, and know that she still stands watch on 600 metres. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Medical. The US Food and Drug Administration, FDA, announced a new initiative to help provide patients with new and innovative medical technologies that can be used in home settings. According to the FDA, the new initiative, titled Ready Home, Reducing Readmissions Through Device Innovation for the Home, invites medical device companies and developers to participate in an innovation challenge in which they provide proposed solutions for medical device technologies to be used in home settings. Applicants will be reviewed by the agency during the selection phase, with a limited number selected to proceed to the interaction phase. During the interaction phase, selected participants will benefit from early engagement with FDA regulatory officials and receive regular feedback so that they can further refine their designs. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Radio Amateur Youngtimers, YOTA, Youngsters on the Air. Members of the next generation of amateur radio operators are stepping up to share their vision. YOTA's VK2COD, Alan, explains what that will mean for the future.
Yes, Cole. We are talking about two young amateurs who are already experienced DXers and DXpeditioners. They are now responsible for helping guide support for future DXpeditions to top entities around the world. Violetta Latham, KN2P, and Max Friedman, N4ML, are now among the panel of directors who will oversee ways the private Northern California DX Foundation can provide financial support to those teams. Violetta's earliest DXpeditions include the 2018 Dave Kauter Memorial Youth DX Adventure in Caraco. According to her page on QRZ.com, she is scheduled to be a part of the ZK3 team going to Tokelau in the South Pacific in November of this year. She is also going to South Georgia for the VPOSG DXpedition in March of 2027. Max's recent DXpeditions include this year's 3YOK activation of Bovet Island, where he was the youngest member of the team. He also activated Curaçao as PJ2/N4ML. Their selection underscores the importance of bringing younger hams into the DXpedition universe. For WIA National News, I am Alan, VK2COD in Sydney.
Thank you, Alan. And that wraps up the segment for this week. Until next time, take care. I'm Cole, VK3GTV.
This is VK1WIA. All points of contacts from today's news stories are to be found in print when you read the web editions, www.wia.org.au.
It's a date and clubs are welcome to email text with audio for this section, nationalnews@wia.org.au. The Social Scene 2026, VK2 the Picton Hamfest, May 31 at the Showgrounds, 8 a.m. Also in VK2, the Oxley Region Amateur Radio Club's Field Day, June 6 and 7, Warhope Showground Hall. In VK5, the same date, South East Radio Group's Convention and the Australian Fox Hunting Championship, Mount Gambier, June 6 and 7. And in VK6, the WAG Ham Radio Junk Sale, 13th of June, First Midland Scout Hall, that's in Helen Street, Bellevue, 10 a.m.
Thank you. Yes, this is Mark, VK6 X-Ray Lima Zulu for VK6 Radio Golf. WAG, the West Australian Repeater Group, would like to announce the 2026 WAG Ham Radio Junk Sale. Saturday morning, the 13th of June, at First Midland Scout Hall, number 10 Helen Street in Bellevue. General admission, gold coin donation from 10 a.m. Buyers to set up an hour earlier. If you're intending to grab a table, please book it with the secretary at wag.org.au. WAG, WARG.org.au. This will be our third annual junk sale, and we hope that it's just as good as the last two. Hope to see you there. Yep, definitely it's a date. The 13th of June, 10 a.m. Stick it in your diary. 7 threes from VK6 RRG. And now, back to the central commentary position and Graham, VK4 Baker.
Thanks, Mark. And a couple to wrap up for today. In VK3, Gippsland Gate Radio and Electronics Club Hamfest Sale, Longwarry Community Hall, 10 a.m, July 4. And in VK5, Adelaide Hills Amateur Radio Society, Big Annual Buy and Sell, Marion RSL, Norfolk Road, 9:30 a.m, July 11. Now, till next we meet, and this being World Telecommunications Day, I'm Editor Graham, AX4BB, reminding you to walk softly.
From Australia, this has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.
Courtesy of Bevan, VK5 BD's ATV and YouTube channel, this has been WIA National News. We're back now, live and local, and your voice, your callbacks. And don't forget, tick like.